My fiancé cheated with several men, so I went after all of them. I met my ex in 2012, right after I had just turned 30. I had only dated and been with women exclusively until I came out as bisexual at 28. Let's just say the year I was 29 was a busy year making up for what I missed out on. It was mostly casual hookups, yes, safe, and I did try dating 2 different guys for a few weeks, but it just never worked out or got serious. I kind of figured that I'd probably end up marrying a woman or not getting married at all because I just didn't see myself catching romantic and sexual feelings for a guy. Then I met Ryan. From the first date it was just like the only other time in my life I had fallen in love, butterflies, constantly thinking about him, wanting to spend every moment with him. He fell for me hard too and we became an item, though he did say he considered my bisexuality a turn-on, because he had a thing for straight guys. It also gave him pause because of my desires for the opposite sex and his concern it may lead me astray. I thought about it and understood it was a legitimate worry, but assured him that I couldn't even think about anyone else because I was really into him. Note, I knew he was the one by the end of the first month and I was in love, but I wasn't going to say these things too soon and risk scaring him off. On our first date he admitted to me that he was legally blind due to a genetic disorder and that it was progressive and eventually he would only have a sliver of his peripheral vision. He immediately said he understood if I didn't want to see him again because no other guy had wanted to date him and be his driver all of the time. I grew up with a brother in a wheelchair who never learned how to walk or talk due to misdiagnosed meningitis at 6 months old back in the 70s. I told him that and said that what my brother had was a severe disability, so in my perspective, his blindness had no effect in my feelings and that always being the driver was a small sacrifice just to be with him. The following years were bliss. We brought out the best in each other. My family, who was surprised, but very supportive when I came out, adored Ryan and treated him like family and said that I acted happier since we'd been together. When I met him he was working part-time in retail and had done very poorly in high school because he lost a lot of his confidence as his vision deteriorated. I told him that one thing I did insist on was that he do something with his life because he had too much to offer and that I would help. He said that he'd wanted to be a teacher but didn't think someone with limited vision could teach. Nonsense. So I put him through community college for 2 years, then 2.5 years of a local university and finally the 1-year teacher certification program as required by California. I drove countless miles and paid hundreds in public transportation costs for him, never blinking an eye or complaining. We'd been together for 7.5 years and were engaged to be married in October by the time he was in his last semester of his teaching certification, which involved him student teaching at his former high school with his favorite teacher from his days in school. Then the pandemic hit and schools closed. Fortunately he had enough hours in the classroom that he would still qualify to be certified after the governor issued a waiver via executive order. On the 3rd day of the stay-at-home order in March my life crumbled when I innocently found out he had cheated on me with an ex, all because he handed his phone to me to show me something on Instagram. I accidentally fat-thumbed the back arrow when he gave it to me, taking me back to a list of all his messages. I looked and recognized the name of his ex as the second message, dated a week ago. I clicked on it and my heart sank. Directions to my house, pictures, dirty talk, and reassuring him not to worry about me because he had my location on my Find My Friends, just in case I came home from work. I immediately started screaming, demanding to know everything, and he admitted to having his ex over twice for sex and that they didn't use protection. His ex was engaged to his GF during this, adding another victim. Then he admitted to sleeping with his straight but curious recently single cousin, by marriage, twice, again no protection. Finally he admitted to sleeping with a supposedly straight guy he and many of my cousins went to school with, who I told Ryan I really didn't like him or want them talking because I didn't trust him after what I'd read about him. Since they were never close friends I didn't feel like this was a big sacrifice or that I was being too controlling, and I assumed that he knew why I, and all my cousins, felt that way, but didn't bother repeating it. The reason was after high school at age 20 this guy was convicted of sexual assault and had gone to jail and required to register as a sex offender for life. Apparently my ex was the only person in his graduating class that hadn't heard that news. All of this happened in my home while I was working. We spent the whole weekend crying with me asking over and over why and him repeatedly crying and saying he just didn't know and that he felt terrible. Monday comes around and anger started being as common as sadness, and I made a comment that said I was going to pull all the phone records going back the 3 years that AT&T kept them, for a fee. Only when he heard that did he admit to one more guy. Some random named Frankie off the gay hookup app Grindr, who was the first guy he cheated with and continued to casually hook up with for nearly 2 years, with the last time being in February, the month before. He told me how it started. Get this, it was the day after his graduation with his BA in May 2018, and he was drunk from celebrating and wanted to have sex. I too had been celebrating with him and said I was too drunk to perform and said I'd make it up the next day, then passed out asleep on the couch. Apparently he was angry horny because he downloaded Grindr, chatted with this Frankie fellow and arranged to have sex in his car in a church parking lot across the street from our condo, which happens to be across the street from a school. This fact is important later, all while I slept on the couch. All the times they hooked up after that was again in my condo while I was working or visiting a friend for the night up the coast. He used to love going but started saying he couldn't occasionally because of homework and studying. I absolutely lost it, told him to get in the car, and I drove him to his family's house so he could tell them what he did so they understood why he was moving back into their house. While he was in the house, I was in the driveway on the phone with AT&T ordering the 3 years worth of detailed call/text logs, then made an appointment to be screened for STIs. I suspended his service until he could figure out how to pay for his own damn phone, then I temporarily changed all his passwords on the social media accounts he cheated with, and to make sure he couldn't hide more evidence so only I would have access to his cloud, we shared each other's passwords on his suggestions years before. I also called the bank and issued a stop payment on his final tuition check that I had sent to the certification program the week before and hadn't hit the bank yet. Before deleting his social media, except Facebook, I took screenshots of the entire Instagram conversation with his ex and mailed the conversation to his fiancé, who deserved to know so she could see a doctor and get tested too. His family was very religious and had kicked him out in high school for 3 days when he tried to admit he was bi, and only took him back in when he took it back. Needless to say, she ended it, he got kicked out. One down. He came back out to the car and we went home. I took his house key and told him to say goodbye to our 3 pets and get packing. The entire time he packed, I studied those phone records to find out dates, times, and if there was anyone else he was leaving out. He answered every question I asked, and it was then that I discovered that the sex offender and he had only had oral sex in my home and that the actual sex was in the same parking lot he screwed the Frankie guy in. The wheels started turning, and the next day I walked over to the church and sure enough spotted a camera. I spoke to a secretary, sweet old lady, at the church and informed them about a registered sex offender having sex in their lot, and that not only was it a violation of his parole for indecent exposure, but that he was not allowed to be that close to a school, and I provided the date. I was in luck. They had a digital 2-year loop system that started deleting day by day after it had been retained for 2 years. It was April 2020 and he first cheated with Frankie in May 2018, and the sex offender was in April 2019. I told them I was filing a police report and that probation would require a copy of it eventually. They said they would save the file and allowed me a thumb drive of both days to submit with my police report. Within a month the sex offender was locked up again. 2 down. I also filed a police report against the Frankie guy. The police said it was a relatively minor infraction, but since it was across from a school playground and skate park they would follow up, but there would be no jail time. I researched the hell out of Frankie and called him to confront him. He was smug and admitted to knowing about me the whole time. What he didn't know is that I had found out he had a job that required a security clearance and he had several judgments against him and collection agencies had been looking for him. Best dollar I ever spent on a data collection site like been verified. I didn't know why they couldn't find him and just garnish his wages, but it ends up he was Hispanic and had 2 last names and was a junior, plus he frequently by his middle name Francisco, Frankie for short, so he got lost in the paperwork confusion. I sent a letter to the collection agencies providing his employer and current location and contact info and then sent a copy of the police report about misdemeanor indecent exposure for which he pled guilty, and it was a fine with community service, not considered a sex crime. His wages did get garnished, but only for 2 paychecks because the misdemeanor was enough for him to lose his security clearance and get fired. 3 down. Then I contacted Ryan's family on his mother's side pretending to be him from his Facebook account, making sure they knew he had banged his cousin. It spread through the family like wildfire, and soon his cousin was contacting me because he couldn't get a hold of Ryan to ask why he would expose what they did. I just laughed and said you shouldn't screw your cousins, especially when they're engaged, and that he'd messed around in my house, so now it was my turn for payback. 4 down. Lastly, I had already stopped payment, but since he was so close to finishing I was sure his family would bail him out and pay the university. Like I said, indecent exposure is usually a slap on the wrist type misdemeanor. However, I remembered some of the paperwork he signed to be a mandated reporter that you could lose teaching certification for documented acts of moral turpitude. I sent a copy of both police reports from the parking lot with still shots from the security footage clearly showing Ryan's face to the school district he'd been student teaching in and a copy to the Commission on Teacher Credentials. 5th and final down. Admittedly, I did all this out of anger, but he shattered my sense of self-worth and made me incredibly bitter and untrusting after years of being generous and supporting him. Everywhere I looked in the town I thought of Ryan and the cheating. I felt a terrible energy in my condo knowing it all happened there. I stayed 9 months and watched all 5 of their lives self-destruct. Then sold my condo, making a nice profit, and relocated to the PNW to start over. One thing that is sad is I found out just recently that his ex, whose fiancé broke up with him, ended up dying several months after I moved. It is too bad that his family was so closed-minded to turn on their own son, but in the end, it's not my fault that he cheated on his fiancée by coming into my home at my fiancé's invitation to cheat.
Wow. I'm impressed at your tenacity. As an educator, your ex's actions prove he didn't take seriously the moral and ethical code that comes with teaching kids. Kudos to you. I hope you've moved on and that you're healing.
Story 2. Boyfriend cheated, I am freaking out. 1. I am the one who initiated the conversation about open relationships. I did so clearly stating I would not be looking for anyone regardless if I was placed hours away or across the country as either as a potential, but that this would give him freedom if he felt too lonely and we would reevaluate the situation and must have clear communication. He and I never really talked about being open at any point before this, and he did not confess until after we had partially gotten into the conversation, and we continued the conversation after the confession. I believe by that point I had kind of shut down and refused to process anything at all. 2. He has a history of cheating on previous partners, including his child's mother, who I am somewhat close to. Both of them must have disclosed this at some point, but I am absent-minded a lot of the time and very stressed lately, so it's not something I actively think about. I blame myself for not remembering this. 3. I have been dealing with illness after illness, pretty much constantly, for months. I am almost always sick. I also just had to deal with my home changing owners, beginning a new lease, and a huge leak that has opened my home into the condo adjoining mine. This is all on top of stress from my grandpa having to undergo surgeries, and a ton of academic stress and job search stress. He is very aware of my situation. I complain constantly. I say this not as an excuse for his actions nor as an excuse for myself at all, just background into me freaking out. 4. Said she's really hot and asked if I wanted to see what she looked like. I said I didn't care either way, and that I didn't want him to feel like he had to show me. He took pictures that he had taken of her during a hangout. She is opposite me, I'm fat, she's extremely thin. She's pretty but not like crazy gorgeous. Not trying to rag on her, I just think it's partially a new shiny thing for him and she gave him attention, so it 5. My best friend and I just got the majority of my stuff out of his home. I can't stop crying and having panic attacks. It has been days since I have properly slept even before this, and I am exhausted to my core. 6. While gathering my things, he called me. He was sad. He said he talked with her and she refused, saying she wanted him to herself. During our talk last night I had said it's a green flag that she refused to entertain him knowing he was taken, before he had gotten to the cheating part having already occurred, and I told him that normally if a girl is willing to sleep with a taken man, then they're doing it to break up the home. I was right. It's shitty. He asked if I'm okay. I told him I haven't told him I've taken my things yet. I love him. It sucks, but it is true. I am the type of person who has to discuss things till they're bare bones in order to process them. I am on the spectrum, but most people hardly can tell, but it truly affects my communication style, mostly that I over-communicate. I unfortunately cannot move on in any direction without speaking to him, or I will dwell and make myself sick and worse than I am. I know that sounds nuts. I don't know if he's done this to me before, but the fact that I was calm and open gave him some confidence to confide in me. He had spoken to his friends the day before and they told him he can't hide it from me. I believe he would have told me since I'm leaving regardless, but that I inadvertently gave him hope that his actions could be excused. Edit. My boyfriend admitted to cheating on me last night. We've been together 2 years. He cheated over the weekend while I was sick in bed, couldn't move, head felt like it was exploding. He waited to say anything until after I had discussed possibly being okay opening the relationship because I am entering a program that will require I locate for bare min a year. Then after a lot of other discussion he got shy and nervous and said he didn't want to lose me. That this is a hard situation. That he loves me. I took most of this to mean he didn't want to do long distance because he'd be sexually frustrated or something, and he denied that. He told me I've been the most amazing girlfriend and the most stable relationship he's ever had. It feels like lies now. Who could be so happy and just do that? Then he told me. He showed me her picture. He said they hung out and she got touchy and they got drinks, and then he took her to the house to get drinks and he got touchy and he didn't think either one of them would do anything, but they did and he didn't mean to. We talked like adults. I was calm and level-headed and understanding. I couldn't sleep all night. I had a huge panic attack this morning. My marriage ended because of a somewhat similar situation. He has a little girl who I have helped raise, who I have taught, have bonded with. Before I left this morning he was being touchy and goofy and I was just trying to act normal. I feel sick thinking of him with her. I feel like I can't be angry because I told him I'd be open to the idea before he admitted, and now it gives him an out. I also understand being attracted outside of your relationship, but I don't understand hiding it. He never mentioned her to me ever. He's had a crush and they've gotten close this whole time and I never even knew. He knows my past situation and how it ended. He knows I was sick. He knows I have 20,000 issues going on and how exhausted I am. We had sex last Thursday and he banged her the next day. I don't understand. I don't know what to say or do or how to get out or if I even should, because now I've made him feel like I'm okay. I'm freaking out. I feel so nauseous. I love him, but I don't know if I can continue to love him knowing I meant so little that he could do this. I know he has read it, but I don't think he reads this page. Even if he does, I really value communication and I know I will talk to him more after I calm down. I thought I was okay when we talked. He's talking with her today about possibly opening the relationship and I feel like I can't change my tune now since I was so calm about it. He cheated. He didn't tell me he liked anyone. He regularly makes jokes about other BF/GF. Oh, I guess I'll have to have my other GF come over. Oh, I bet you're meeting with your other BF. I never ever took it seriously and told him it hurt me because I would never do something like that. Some vindictive part of me wants to go find someone to F to make us even. But I'm so heartbroken. I'm so hurt and confused how to move forward. I love his daughter so much. She's so attached. He said I'm so good with her he didn't want to risk losing me. But he did it.
He proposed opening the relationship up after he cheated though, right? Well, too little too late. He's a prick, and you should leave.
I proposed it before he admitted to cheating. He said he didn't think it would be an option with my past issues.
Thanks for clarifying. Still doesn't change the fact he's a prick. You should be leaving. Just because you were cool with the idea of an open relationship doesn't change the fact that you're not okay with being cheated on. You suggesting an open relationship before he admits to cheating doesn't make his cheating any more acceptable. It's unacceptable. Even in an open relationship, what he did would be considered cheating. He's a cheat, plain and simple, and doesn't deserve nice things like OP.
Story 3. I, F26, cheated on my boyfriend with the stripper he was seeing almost daily, and I'm glad I did it. It was the best decision I ever made. My now ex-boyfriend was emotionally and verbally abusive. He'd call me derogatory names when I didn't do something he wanted, and he'd make hurtful comments about my body. I'm not even overweight, but I have body dysphoria. I was crying every single day. I wanted to leave him, but I couldn't because I was emotionally dependent on him for everything, and we were living together. He started going to strip clubs and being open with me about and telling me he enjoys seeing women that look better than me. He went so often that I felt like he was cheating on me. I just had to go for myself and see what it was like. One night I went and decided to pay for a dance. It just so happens the I got a dance from one of the strippers he sees. Little did I know meeting her was going to be the best thing that ever happened to me. I was a bit drunk and tipsy, so I overshared with her about my BF and told her about him. She said she knew who I was talking about because he'd always talk badly about me to the dancers. I just broke down and cried right there like a big idiot in front of her. She gave me a tissue to wipe my tears and gave me a huge hug. She said she didn't know what my BF was talking about because she thought I was beautiful. It made me cry even more because it made my day for a girl to think I'm pretty at least. I kept going every so often, then eventually we exchanged numbers and started going out. I was so surprised to see she dressed like a boy when she wasn't working and to learn that she was gay. She told me she doesn't like men at all, but she makes good money off of them. People really surprise me a lot. She has the cutest personality ever. She opens doors for me and would ask me if I was tired or if I had anything to eat. I realized I was attracted to her and she was attracted to me. This kept going on for a few months. One night she kissed me and told me to leave him and to move in with her. We had sex and she made me look at myself in the mirror and tell myself I'm beautiful. I thought it was time to leave him because at that point I realized I deserved better than to be emotionally, mentally, and verbally abused almost every day by someone I used to love. While he was at work, she helped me pack up everything. I sent him a text detailing why I was leaving him. I changed my number and blocked him on everything. I live with her far away from him and haven't heard from him in months, and honestly, I'm glad. I don't care about your opinions on my cheating on my abusive boyfriend. I have no regrets. If I never cheated on him, I would have never found the power to leave his toxic and abusive ass and be with a girl who loves all of me and makes me feel so beautiful. We've been together for 6 months and I'm still so in love with her. She's still the same loving and sweet person she was when I first met her. And she's amazing in bed, like full-blown amazing. She makes me come all the time and he hardly ever did. Maybe only once a month if I'm being honest. She works at a different strip club now and I found a new job I'm starting soon and I'm so excited for new shit to come my way. I feel so blessed and lucky.
I had an ex that cheated on me all the time, with so many different girls. I suspected, but never had proof until my brother, who he worked with, told me he was cheating on me with at least 2 girls they worked with together. I dumped him and foolishly got back together with him after about a month. I still didn't trust him, and I was still very bitter about him cheating on me. So the relationship was still so toxic because he didn't trust me either, even though I never cheated on him. Yet, I got a new job as a bartender and met the most incredible, sexy, hilarious, and sweet man, and instantly fell for him. We started hanging out as friends, and that friendship blossomed into us falling for each other so hard. He made me feel so good about myself and truly respected me. One night after a late shift, he drove me home and grabbed my face in the most romantic and gentle way and kissed me so tenderly. A kiss I felt through my whole body. I brought him upstairs and we slept together. I dumped my POS boyfriend the next day. 11 years later, we have been married for almost 10 years with a 9-year-old son. We have built the most amazing life together, and he is the best thing that has happened to me. He's my soulmate. And I knew at the moment I laid eyes on him. My ex still keeps tabs on me, is single, and lives with his mom. I'll say cheating was a good choice. I'm so happy you found your person. Your ex sounds just like mine, and I'm glad it ruined him when I left him for my now husband. Sucks to suck.
Story 4. My wife cheated on me and I couldn't be happier. Where to begin? I, 26M, have been married to my wife, 26F, Lana, fake name obviously, for 8 years now. I met her 16 years ago in elementary school, we started dating in middle school, and slept together for the first time in high school. In our young minds, we thought we were absolutely in love, nothing would tear us apart. I grew up in Georgia as a Baptist, where there's a kind of weird Christian attitude about sexuality and all that. I dunno, I've never really been religious, and neither has my wife. We didn't really care, but my parents did. They always got on my back that if I was having sex with this girl, I had to marry her. Her parents weren't as strict about it, but essentially I was forbidden from seeing her. My parents told me at 17 that I would be kicked out of the house if I didn't marry Lana. Looking back now, I don't think they would have gone through with leaving me on the streets for not breaking up with a girl. I'm pretty sure they were trying to manipulate me into living the life they wanted for me. So, we got a courtroom marriage. Her parents were cool with it, they had 3 kids to a room and were glad to have more space in the house. We always talked about having a real wedding one day, but with everything going on in life, we just never got around to it. I got to be married at 18 to the love of my life and still got to finish high school and live with my parents. Since then, I've gotten a lot of therapy. I've realized just how horrible it was for my parents, religious or not, to force their own child to get married so that he wouldn't disappoint Jesus by having sex with one person. It's not like I was even trying to follow any of their other standards. Let's fast forward to the present day. A few years later we moved out into our own dingy little apartment. I got a job apprenticing to a plumber to pay rent, but neither me or Lana could afford school, and my dad was only willing to pay if I went to a church college or something. I've considered it many times, but it's whatever. Eventually, I kind of just stopped loving Lana. It's not that she stopped being physically attractive to me or anything, it's just that over the years she did basically nothing. She never got a job, she never did work around the house, most days she would just play video games, smoke weed with me, and then we'd pass out or have sex. She didn't cook, didn't clean, hell I even had to do the laundry after work at midnight some nights, just so I'd have something to wear in the morning. I felt trapped. I wanted to divorce her, so badly. I talked to her about changing, so many times that I feel like I had the same conversation over and over and over. She'd get a job and quit after a month. She'd cook 3 meals in an entire week and then stop for months. These aren't things you find out about a woman in high school. So we started to get a little distant. Sex reduced to once a month if that. We didn't even hang out most nights. When I'd come home, she'd be sleeping or way too baked to hold a decent conversation with. In the morning she would go to Starbucks for a coffee and some other baked goods. Sometimes she'd get something for me, sometimes not. Why didn't I divorce her? Well, honestly, it was just about alimony. I could barely afford to pay rent as it is, but divorcing her I know she'd get some kind of share of the money I already have an issue keeping. With everything about my parents, I wasn't willing to move in with them, so I just felt trapped where I was. I know of too many stories where people will get a divorce and have to pay alimony for the rest of their lives, and that just seems like too much for me to handle. One day while out on the job, I had a panic attack because of everything going on and decided to go home early. I live 5 minutes away from where I was working. I texted Lana on the way home that I would be there soon. Lana answered the door in her lingerie, nearly out of breath. Well, that was suspicious already, but there was no one in the apartment so I didn't think anything of it immediately. Thought maybe she was having some alone time and the lingerie helped her get in the mood or something. But that night it ate at me. I didn't voice any concerns to her, I just let it eat away at me. The next morning I called in sick without telling Lana, drove off, and snuck back to our apartment complex. I watched our apartment until I saw a Jeep roll up and a man walked out. He walked up to our first-floor apartment, and Lana opened the door and let him in. This wasn't a man I'd ever seen before, but I knew what was going on. I went into my apartment, burst into the bedroom to see them already naked with each other, and took some photos. Ignoring her cries, I packed up a bag with any clothes I could find, and I left. Why am I happy about this? I live in Georgia, where adultery is considered a crime. No alimony for cheaters. I felt like I had the entire world ahead of me as I drove away. I know I need a lawyer, I know I need to cover my tracks, and all of that. But man, sometimes it's good to be cheated on.
Can't believe I'm saying this, but congratulations. However, you have to be smart how you handle this next part. The goal is for you to get the divorce and not have to pay her anything. Also, assuming both of your families are a part of your life and you want them to stay there, you need to make sure that she is the one who stays at fault. Which means you can't seem excited or smug, or let anyone realize that you planned this. Handing her divorce papers within a couple hours, or indicating that you set her up will only turn them on you. You are a shocked and heartbroken husband who found his wife with another man in his bed when she thought he was breaking his back working to support her comfortable lifestyle. Why would you want to reconcile with that? Clearly she was never the kind, godly woman you thought she was, and the love you felt was gone the minute you saw her with another man, or more something paternalistic. You also may consider getting your story out first before she could twist things. Play it smart, play the victim, and also lock down your bank account. Also, get an STD test and watch out for a surprise and miraculous pregnancy announcement.
Story 5. I ruined my life for a threesome. My wife, Letty, and I used to have an amazing relationship. We met each other 8 years ago, married 4 years ago, and we used to have a great marriage. We had our ups and downs, but we always solved any issue and never let a day pass before amend things between us. We were happy. The last year, we started to be more adventurous in the bedroom. After an event on our family, Letty decided to let go her shyness and to live every single thing she could think, and that ended up in her becoming creative on the bedroom. We tried everything that caught our attention. If we see something at TV or read about it, we tried it. We had so much fun together. After trying something she was very curious to try, she let me choose something to do. She told me to choose something you ever wanted to try but never had the chance. I stupidly told her I always wondered how it would be to be with 2 girls. She agreed and started to plan a threesome. I still regret that moment. We ended up choosing a girl we know, Abby, a friend of her from her job. She is the type of girl that believes on energies, crystals, vibes, etc. A free spirit girl, and she is nice to hang around. We told her, and she ended up accepting. We choose her because we knew it was very probable she will accept, but we also choose her because physically she is very different from my wife. While she is small, with pale skin, short hair and little butt and breasts, not saying she is ugly, she is very cute. My wife have tan skin, long beautiful hair and a great body. The idea was that, this way, there would not be insecurities about me comparing them or that I would prefer her. So, we said it, she came to our place, and we spent the night together. And I regret it. Even if those hours were great at the moment, I would do anything to get back to that night and stop everything. The following days everything was great. Letty was happy that I liked it, and Abby keep it private, so it was like another perfect adventure for us. Then after a few days, Letty started to become distant. Sleeping at the other side of the bed, not wanting me to kiss or hug her, not even cuddling. At first she said it was because she was tired, but after insisting, she told me it was due to the threesome. She told me that, even if she had fun that night, now she was feeling awful, cheated, used. That the image of me making love to another woman was burned on her mind, she wasn't comfortable with me near to her. We tried talking about it, even got into counseling. I tried everything to make her sure I only love her, that it was just a fantasy that would never happen again. And then Abby called me. Her period was delayed and she believed she could be pregnant. That killed my marriage. My wife moved out from our house and had asked for divorce. She said she can't be near to me, knowing that another woman is pregnant with my child is too much for her. She can't even see me. No matter what I do or say, for her, it's over. Meanwhile, Abby took a test, and she was indeed pregnant. I still don't know how it happened. I used protection all the time, even checked it after using it, and still, she is pregnant. Abby is 100% sure the baby is mine. She says that, before me, she hasn't done it with anyone else in months, and she is so sure about it, that she offered to make a DNA test when the baby is born, just to clear any doubts. I feel like I messed up all my life. Letty is the love of my life, and she doesn't want to see me. Abby is not a bad friend at all, but she is the type of person you can only take on small doses, and now I'm bounded to her forever. She want to keep the baby, and want me to be part of the baby's life. Sometimes I want to just disappear, end things. I'm desperate, my life is falling apart for that stupid mistake. I don't know what to do. Update. Abby and I took the test. I'm the father. She is open to do another test after the baby is born, if I want to be sure, but as things seems to be, is my baby. At first I took it the worst way possible. I kept torturing myself for being such an idiot, and reading some of the comments made me realize that I'm the biggest stupid for asking my wife to add another girl to our bedroom. Abby and I talked after the test. She is keeping the baby, she wants to be a mom, and want me to be a father for the baby. She told me that she didn't expect me to start living with her and get married, just to take charge of the responsibilities that will come with the baby, and to get along and be good friends for the baby. She had also apologized for how things had developed, saying that she never wanted to hurt me or Letty, her intention was to just have fun, but that she is grateful and excited for the baby. She and I are on good terms now. I'm still not totally comfortable with her, and she's saying that if I can't save my marriage and end up divorcing my wife, she wouldn't mind having fun with me again. Makes me doubt about her real intentions. On the other side, my wife hasn't started the divorce yet. She moved back and we have talked. At first she was so angry at me, and I let her do and say all she needed, every insult and name, I earned it. Then she got very sad. We cried together as she told me she still loves me. She said she can't live without me, but can't live with me either after what happened. The threesome is not the problem anymore, now is about me having a baby with Abby. It's hard, both are confused and scared and still don't know if we will get over this. But the thing that have me even more confused is that recently, my wife's libido had grown. For moments she asks for intimacy, and wriggles after wants space. She wants to be kinky and do the things we used to try to play, and wriggles after she go to another room. I've asked her and she said she don't know why she does it, she just feel that she needs it. She is still insecure about us, about what we are, where we are. Divorce is still on the table, so we are stuck. I would like to do what to do, but I don't know what is the right thing or how to solve this. I know I'll have to be responsible for the baby, but I want to save my marriage too.
I'm not jumping to Abby baby trapped you, but her behavior now is throwing major red flags. Talk to a lawyer, get custody plans drawn up and ready to go, get another test at birth, and then put those plans into action. As to what the plans should be, that's up to you and your wife. Whatever they are, they should keep your wife and Abby far, far apart. I suspect Abby may attempt to sabotage your marriage to free you up for fun and dad time.